think what attracted me to it initially was Francis, for sure. You know, for me personally, the director means so much, especially for film. And knowing that he was doing it really meant a lot. And of course, with Stephen King, you know, I've always admired his work, but this in particular, there's a certain kind of existential aspect to the story that I was really personally drawn to. And I do think it just kind of generally highlights trauma and, you know, young men in particular kind of experiencing trauma firsthand as they're growing up and coming of age in a way that I've never kind of read or seen before on screen, I don't think, in the way that Francis ended up wanting to do it. I'm so glad Francis said, I really want you to read for this character, because it made me go back and see that, especially, you know, I think in JT's adaptation of it, there is so much going on with this. The anger and the kind of inner turmoil and torment really is coming from a place of self-loathing and self-harm more than it is, you know, wanting to genuinely hurt others. It kind of opened the door for who this guy is, and I think why I ended up really deeply caring about this guy and genuinely, you know, having fun with him as much as, you know, feeling a deep, deep, deep sense of empathy for his journey in this and where we end up finding him in the end. Francis also, you know, I had really expressed to him early that for me, Dennis Hopper's character in Apocalypse Now had been a big reference for me, just as far as the energy of who Barkovich, I think, is to a degree. You know, I think he was excited about that, so he had this idea to give me this camera that, you know, throughout the film, I'm able to kind of have as somewhat of like a security blanket, but it ended up being like a really powerful tool for me to kind of understand how Barkovich is something that I figured out kind of early on, which is a really sad thought, but I think for Barkovich, this is the most quality time he's had with guys his age, you know, maybe ever. There's almost this kind of giddiness of, even though walking to your death, there's still this brotherhood and this camaraderie that, you know, for I think Barkovich means more than really anything. And, you know, regardless of why, it is the heart of the film. And, you know, these guys, it just felt so natural, like we had been the oldest friends for, you know, yeah, man. I mean, and I think, you know, you of course share special moments with people and experiences like this, but again, I think, you know, for some of these guys, I've just really, like, in a deep life way, feel a gratitude for them coming into my life, and just the connections alone mean just so much to me that that's clearly the biggest takeaway for myself. Francis knows what he's doing, man, and I think, you know, yeah, I don't know if he knew we'd all get that close, but I'm really, really grateful that that's the boat we're in. Most of our characters were coming from, you know, extreme poverty, and that was, you know, a lot of the reasoning that they were even in this position to begin with, and that's, you know, specific to some characters. You are witnessing guys who are kind of on the fringes to a degree, and in different ways and in different parts of the country, but of course that is something that, you know, it exists very much then as it does now, and I think, you know, Francis really grounding that in realism, you know, made for something that feels really kind of chilling and unnerving in a way that, you know, I hope lands with people, but I think it will. I'm just so excited that Francis is adapting it, and I hope we can, you know, honor the source material and honor the films that have come before this in that sense. And it reminds me so much of those characters in Stand By Me, and I trust them so much with that, and I'm really excited to see, as an audience member with the audience. It's going to be a really special experience.